Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I have the opportunity to work on some reels that Brian sent me. He sent me Okuma RTX 30S fishing reels, and well, he's asked me to do the general service on them. And a couple of things that we will find interesting about this reel. One of them is that it does have what they call precision elliptical gearing. You'll see that when we get inside of it. You have an oblong gear rather than a rounded one. It's supposed to make for more consistent contact, and it's supposed to make it a smoother running reel, and these are very smooth running reels. This is a size 30 reel. That means it's appropriate for freshwater as well as some inshore ocean. I do notice that he has it loaded with braid, and braid will increase what you can do both in terms of line capacity and strength. So well, he didn't say where he's fishing with them, but he did say that they are his for fishing, and they're out of Florida, so I guess it could cross over. One of the things that's nice is he keeps the boxes, keeps the original information, and well, there's a schematic in here as well. So if I need to reference that at some point, I know where to find that schematic. I've worked on a couple of these reels already, so my confidence factor going in, at any rate, is generally okay. We'll find out if we need it in a little bit. Well, we're going to start by removing the pieces and parts. As we do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like the art of reel repair, if you like seeing how reels are made, learn a little bit about them, how they're used, how to service them and keep them running for a long time, or how to get them back into action. Maybe you've got one that's broken. Well, if you like that kind of thing, this is the channel for you. The goal of this channel is to teach you how to do it yourself and to show you by example the best practices for servicing reels and how to keep your reels running for a long time to come. You notice I just put an elastic band over it. I actually have two methods to my madness. There is a little line holder here. I just find from time to time that unhooks and becomes problematic. The other one, when somebody sends in a lot of reels to me, that's a marker to me that the reel has been completed. So I kind of benefit from both sides on that. All right, in order to get the lower end of this reel off, we have to take the rotor off. To take the rotor off, we're going to remove the shim washer and the click ratchet that are on the axle shaft. And most of the time, just like that, you can pull them off with hand strength. Sometimes that little shim washer will get dried out, and if it gets dried out, there is a chance that you'll need to spend a little bit more time getting it off. It won't pull off as easily. There's a hold fast screw here, and as we're doing this part, I want to encourage you to take pictures, because the pictures will help you in the event that you get stuck along the way. This nut, if I recall, is a reverse threaded nut, which means you need to turn it clockwise like this. Those of you who remember analog clocks, to remove it. And remember, when we go to put that back on, that you're going to need to put it on in a counterclockwise manner, or turning the nut towards you. That's a 10mm nut. I've used a deep socket because, well, it's hard to get something over that shaft, but I've come to figure that is the easiest way to do it. I'm going to remove the rotor assembly. This one was running fine, so what I'm going to do is put some oil into the seams of the bail and onto the bearing, and I just work it back a little bit, back and forth. That'll help keep that flipping nicely. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. I use the bottom of a fast food container, especially for the small parts. The larger parts, well, I wouldn't say it's impossible to lose, but they're harder to lose. So generally I'll just put them off to a corner on my bench. Next up, I want to remove my handle. This is a through handle. It's got a bar that passes through the main gear. So that handle comes out by removing the screw cap on the other side, and then we can pull back on this side. And one of the things that I find is good to do is to just put that screw right back in there. And if it's not your reel, if you're working on a reel for somebody else, pay attention to what side the handle was on. This is a left-handed crank setup. This reel can be swapped out to put that on both sides. One of the things you're going to notice is we have an override here for the anti-reverse. It's held on by a spring, And we'll get around to that in just a moment or two. We want to continue by removing the side case. We got a bump guard here, but there's no evidence that there's a screw holding that bump guard on. Look closer, you're going to find that there is a screw hole in the handle. And if you get to this part of the reel, you'll notice that this bottom screw is actually going through an eyelet on this bump guard, and that's how you're going to have to remove it. To do that, I use a smaller screwdriver, a micro screwdriver, to remove the top one. It's always good to have the common tools that you're going to use in reel repair at hand, nearby. And in this case, you don't have to put the reel down to go looking for them. And again, I have a little bit of experience doing this reel, so I knew that I was going to need these before we got too far, so I took them out ahead of the video. All right. When I take the screws out, I'm going to line them up on my desk. Those are the two should be holding this guard on right now. There we go. And there's that eyelet that you can see is passed through. Now that other screw should fall out of here. It's kind of stuck in there at the moment. And a good thing to do with this screw is put it back where it came from before you put this assembly into the parts tray. I'm going to leave that screw on the desk for a minute because I want to make sure that all three of these screws are the same. That's two, they're both the same. And every now and then you find that there's a bigger one or a smaller one or different location. If you find that, just note it. All three of those are the same screw. And interestingly enough, we have one more screw up top here. We know that that's a different one because it's got a different color. And a different size. So you mark that for the top here. Okay, that's going to give us these 4 screws for the side plate. I'm going to put those into the corner of my parts tray. If I haven't mentioned it already, it's always a good idea to take pictures along the way at critical junctures. That way you know when it's time to reinstall where those pieces and parts came from. Well, we should be able to take this side plate off now. Gain access to that main gear. There you go. This is your back side plate. Now you want to turn your reel down so that you can remove the axle shaft. There's one screw here that's holding the axle shaft to the crosswind block, so let's take that out. And we'll find another corner of that parts tray so that we don't confuse that screw with any others. Hold your crosswind block, pull up on the axle shaft, and that should come out. Check to make sure it's nice and clean. If it's got any old dirt and grease on it, just wipe it off. You know where that goes in the parts tray. All right, now you'll get your first look. We're going to remove the crosswind block. You'll get your first look at what the elliptical gear is after we remove this main gear. I'll take that bearing off first. I guess we can put that right into the side plate there. I'm going to oil that bearing while I'm at it. It's a shielded bearing, so it will accept the oil. You'll notice on here that the main gear has a hole in it, and you're not going to be able to see it real easily. But if you pass an awl through that main gear, you're going to hit a mark on this eccentric gear. There's going to be a little red dot, I believe, back there. That's how you're going to align this gear when it's time to reinstall. We're going to take that gear out now. We pull the bearing off the back end of the case. We also have the little hold fast there for the handle. That's going to go on the handle screw, so let's put that back on. And then we'll show you what's happening here. So this is not your traditional round crosswind block and round drive gear off the back of the main. This is, well, as they call it, elliptical. And if you'll look, it's not at all even, right? There's very little teeth on this side and big wide expanse on that side. If you look at the crosswind block now, it's oval or elliptical. This is what I was looking for. It's not a red dot. Some of them have red dots, whether it's this manufacturer or not. But you'll see there's a dot there. And again, when we go to align, we're going to just pass this through, and it should line up identically with that. Okay, we're going to do one more thing below here. We're going to take that gear off, and then we'll go up top to remove that piece. Okay, that's all off now. So that's the bottom end of the case is off. All of our pieces and parts are nicely sitting in our parts tray out of the way where we're not going to knock it up. And don't think I haven't done it with the parts tray. I have, but it's occasional. But every now and then I'll push my elbow over to the side or something. I'll bang the darn parts tray and I'll go flying. So just be careful as you organize your pieces and parts for reinstall what you're doing. Okay, we want to clean up the main gear. We're going to do that by what you saw, spray of penetrating oil. Now I'm going to take a hard brush and pull through the teeth as I check that. And interestingly enough, we have a red dot on this one too, but I don't know. I don't think that's the reference point at all. There may be. We'll check the main gear as we do that. Put that over to the side for a moment. Let's come up top here. The last piece is the pinion gear, the AR reverse, and a little spring for the override. These do have an override. So I'm just checking now to see what we have here. Looks like we have a more traditional anti-reverse. First thing I want to do then, I want to remove this spring, because if you don't, it's going to pull up and out, and then you're going to have some trouble. You got to be careful with the spring. It will shoot. You can see it right here. It will shoot, and it will also distort if you're trying to wrench it out somehow. Well, looks like you should be a jeweler for this reel, because all of the screws require the smaller screwdrivers. Just like we did with the other one, we're going to take the two screws out. Take a picture here. Now I have that schematic, that'll help. The two screws are the same, and this one's a little bit less, it's kind of idiot proof, because they have an opening for a stud to make sure you're on the right side of the collar. Okay, and then we just, I guess I didn't need to remove that spring, but we do want to clean up the collar. We do want to make sure that this is all clear. You don't grease or oil the shaft there, that one, or the insides of the anti-reverse clutch. That's a friction-driven device, so you don't do that. Wipe this off. You don't want grease on that. This is the bottom washer for the rotor, so that sits on top of the gear, and we're going to oil that. Last thing we're going to do here is the same thing we did before with the main gear. We're going to take that hard brush. You can use a toothbrush or any hard brush that you have. You can see all the old greases in that I'm pulling out of that. And now what I'll do is get some fishing reel grease. In this case, I'm going to use Penn Precision Reel Grease. And we're going to grease that back up. Put a good amount of grease onto that. I use an artist's brush. There's a couple of reasons for it. It's convenient, but also on the artist brush you do have less hairs falling out of them. Okay, I think I'm going to try and put this screw back on while it's open like this. It should be a little bit easier. This is always a nervy point when you do this, because as you put the tension on to move this carrier over, typically you're putting a lot of tension on that spring, and well, if you're not careful, you can shoot that spring. And I just kind of use a little awl here to line that up. And sometimes it's not as easy as it would seem, and sometimes they just go right on, and in this case, well, it's back on, so we're in pretty good shape there. All right, so I have that spring is back here now. All right, pinion gear, sleeve for the AR, bearing. Now we can take this and slide this back in. Make sure that it sits flush. This can go on at this point. It's got two flat sides. Just line them up with the flat sides on that gear shaft. And then bring that collar over. Line those up. And then we can put those two screws in to stop that or complete that top surface. These are nice little reels. They're very smooth because of that elliptical drive. Now we can't put the rotor on yet because the case kind of hides under that rotor there. So we're just going to leave that off for a moment. We did take this bearing out before. It came out with the main gear, so let's go put that back into the case like that. It should snap in. Again, oil those bearings. The case below is clean. If it wasn't clean, go spray that down with maybe a penetrating oil or something. Come on in and grab your cleaning tools like a cotton swab, and that can help you complete the process of cleaning it up. Here's our elliptical gear then. See, there's a little dried grease behind it. Take that out. First one of these with these elliptical gears absolutely drove me crazy. And then I realized that there's little pointers in terms of how to solve it. Made it a whole lot easier with those reference marks. Most of the time they're painted marks. Most of the time there's, well, on this side you would see the dot, and then on the back end here you would see a dot in one of those cavities for the teeth. But this one doesn't have that, but it has an opening window which you look through. All right, we're going to put that elliptical gear back in. That sits on a post. And we have that small screw, which is going to hold that down. Well, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you just like to know a little bit more about Okuma or any of these types of reels, just leave them in the comments section. I will try to answer those for you. Again, I encourage you to take the pictures. Very important. I'm taking pictures here. I'm using a video camera. You can use whatever image capture device. How'd you like that? Image capture device you have to go do that. And it'll be to your benefit to go do it. All right, we've cleaned up the main gear. We're going to do the same thing. Then we're going to grease it up. Get a good amount of grease onto the teeth. Same thing on the back end here. And then the all-important merge. So we have a window to look through right here. We're going to line that up. We're going to start by getting this little circle here, kind of right where you would think that it's going to come in. Take the main gear, go in the same way. And then, as I pointed out before we started, take your pick, run it through, and do you have that merged? One way to find out, I guess we can take this off for a moment. One way to find out is turn it and make sure that it turns smooth and that it does not hiccup along the way. If it hiccups, you're probably off by a tooth or more. So just do that again just to check it out. Well, we're not on the right side of that. Next rotation, I guess. Just come through. Are we landing? Interestingly enough, it looks like I'm off by one. I'm going to pick that up and see if I can't move it over one. And we'll do the same thing again. We're going to turn it. There we go. And we'll do it one more time. We'll line it up, coming around again. It sounds like a refrain of a song. Just kind of come through with your pick. Yeah, we're straight on there now. So that's the way it should be when you set this. With that on the bottom, put your crosswind block back in. And we can take our axle shaft next. Light coating of grease under the axle shaft. Not much, because when you put it through your pinion gear here, it will scrape off. Flat side down, flat side facing you. Thread that into your crosswind block. And then go to your parts tray for the crosswind block screw. Still have my bigger screwdrivers there. I should realize that you need the small ones for all of these. Okay, that's the inner workings of your reel. We've serviced the top. And go ahead and put this thing back together again. We've already put the oil on the bearing in this case. There's a shim washer or two. I think there's two on there. Feels like it. The bearing's reseated in the case. The case is clean. So we can put that case back on now. And then we can take the back end here, that bump guard, remove the small screw, and then seat that in there. Now, whichever one you do next isn't important, but you need to do the two case screws for that bump guard. I've seen several of these types of reels that hide this screw, and Shimano's good like that. Come in with those broken points there. And it's generally because somebody didn't know it was there, they started prying, and well, you're never in a good thing if you start to use force. There are 3 of the same length type screws that are our case screws. They go on next. And just take your time with these reels. Okay, those 3 are down, and now we have the one that goes into the upper case there that's going to be hidden by the rotor. So let's put that on. And we can take our rotor. That would go next. Remember, there's a washer on here now. Sometimes it sticks to the bottom of the rotor here, so just pay attention. If you didn't find it coming off, it may be hiding under that rotor there. Remember, this is a reverse thread now, so you're going to put it on as if you were taking it off normally, counterclockwise. Again, for those that don't speak analog, that means turn the nut to you. Hand tighten that. Then I'm just going to put one more just partial turn there. Give it a spin. Make sure it's spinning nicely, and everything that should be doing is being done. We have a tie down screw for that nut now. And we have the click ratchet. And we have the shim washers. There's 2 shim washers on here. They control spool height. The spool height is fine. I'm looking at it. It's coning evenly. The only suggestion I would have to you, Brian, is take some of the yardage off of this. You should have that reveal a little bit deeper into the piece. Okay, there's just a little rubber knob holding on the drag washers here. We can generally just pop that out. That's a water seal. And then under that we have a 5-sided spring. And this reel has got an awful lot of drag for the type of reel that it is. And we're going to find out what kind of drags they have, and we'll act accordingly. So these have Carbon Tex drags in them. We don't need to do much with those. Just need to make sure that they're clean. You also want to make sure that the cavity's clean. So I'm going to grab a cotton swab again to do that. And then this is a typical 6 drag setup. 3 metals, 3 fabric washers. The hard washer goes in first. And we have 2 that are round with a rectangular center. They're called keyed washers, and they first and last. The second one goes in. The middle washer is called an eared washer, has a circle in the center, and 2 wings that go in the slots. Last one, the last of the keyed washers, and a 5-sided clip. And then our water protector. Now you can see that you have those 2 little tag ends that go in the slots. And again, it's rubber, so it's just press it down, run it around to make sure that it seats equally. And then your drag knob is going to take care of the rest. Okay, we can take that and put that onto the axle shaft. Drag knob. And all we have to do is put the handle on and give it a test. Tighten this up. Make sure that it holds. It does. Back it off. You don't want to leave the pressure on the drag washers. You have to, every time you go fishing, back that drag off. Okay. Handle goes in. Notice a little bit of, I don't know if that's rust or discoloration or something, so let's make sure we put a little bit of oil in there to keep that lubricated. Come on around to this side. Remember, we noticed that this was left-handed from a crank standpoint. We'll tighten this up, clean off our desk, give it a test. Well, if you're liking this video, then I would ask you to do just that. Indicate that you like it on there. Again, if you want to see more of these, please subscribe. All right, let's give it a run. Nice and smooth reel all around. Nice easy bail flip. We've already tested that. So that's it. That's your Okuma RTX 30S. It's a beautiful reel with an elliptical drive, and now you know what an elliptical drive is and how to set it. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders and essential personnel for everything they do. I truly do appreciate their efforts. To everyone, enjoy the art of servicing your fishing reels and keeping them ready to go fishing. I think Brian has done the right thing here. He's ready to take these out of service for a little bit, make sure that they get what's needed so that they have a good full season ahead of them when the fishing's on again. I want to wish everybody a great day, good luck on the water, and a good time doing the servicing of your fishing reels. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.